Many workers are able to consider not just their political ideologies or their hot takes on the latest topic of political discourse or culture war. They're able to consider their direct material benefit from being in the union.
This whole saga with the Teamsters and UPS, it's really kind of captured the country's imagination, or the country's attention in a lot of ways. And it is, whatever the outcome from the membership, whether or not they vote in the tentative agreement, this is really illustrative of the power that working people have when we come together, when we bargain together, when we organize together, that we simply don't get when we try to bargain individually, right? And that's a really big ethos in the state of Alabama among a lot of people. People tell me I'm a union activist. I'm on the board of our labor council here. I am a steward. I'm really involved in the labor movement. And so many people tell me, if your job is so bad, why don't you just get a different one? And that's not the way to make jobs better, right? That's not how the Teamsters made their jobs better. That's not how the Teamsters won $42 an hour for full-time package car drivers, which is what they make right now. And it's not how they were able to secure $49 an hour by the end of the contract if this tentative agreement is ratified. It's not how, it's just not how gains are made, doing this individual kind of thing. It's coming together and using your power. And that's really what unions are about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to remind folks, a little bit about why unions are a good thing for workers, because of so much attention that has been brought on by this struggle, the struggles of the actors and writers on strike and so many other high-profile labor struggles happening right now. So obviously we're going to talk about the tentative agreement between the Teamsters and UPS, and wherever you line up on that, or other questions around leadership or other issues, I think we can find broad consensus that workers are better off at UPS with representation through the Teamsters than similar workers in non-union facilities, right? I'd much rather work for UPS as a driver than FedEx. And we can see a distinct union advantage for the workers. And because the workers are stronger through organization, they are better off on a material basis. They get to vote up or down on a contract proposal negotiated by their representatives. They get to elect leaders, organize caucuses, contest elections, change bylaws, debate at the meetings and assemblies. Unions are human institutions and thus fallible institutions, but unions are ultimately, to varying degrees, worker institutions and democratic institutions that belong to the membership. And we can and should always be organizing to ensure that they are vibrantly democratic institutions that are by and for the members, and institutions that see themselves as part of a broader labor movement and working class movement to build a better world that is not only possible, but necessary. And I want to turn to Michael Yates, who wrote a classic book published by our friends over at the Monthly Review Press called Why Unions Matter. Yates argued, quote, that unions mattered because they were the one institution that has dramatically improved the lives of the majority of the people and had the potential to radically transform both the economic and political landscape, making both more democratic. Yates showed with clear and decisive data that union members enjoyed significant advantages over non-union workers: higher wages, more and better benefits, better access to many kinds of leaves of absence, a democratic voice in their workplaces, and a better understanding of their political and legal rights. What is more, unions benefited non-union workers through their political agitations and through what is called the spillover effect. Non-union employers will treat their employees better, if only to avoid unionization. But hey, you don't have to take it from me or from Michael Yates. Let's see what the United States Department of Labor says on their website. Quote, labor unions improve wages and working conditions for all workers, whether they are union members or not. Unions help reduce wage gaps for women workers and workers of color. Union members have better job safety protections and better paid leave than non-union workers, and are more secure exercising their rights in the workplace. As I said, unions are human institutions with human leadership. There are tensions and contradictions and faults within our labor movement and among the institutions that make it up. There's political tension between conservatives, liberals, leftists, libertarians, moderates, and apolitical types within our movement.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
We have that political diversity in part because there are arguments you can make in favor of unions from all of these different perspectives. And many workers are able to consider not just their political ideologies or their hot takes on the latest topic of political discourse or culture war, but they're able to consider their direct material benefit from being in the union, whatever disagreements they might have with the union or its leadership or even, their fellow members. And, I know for me, I've been able to work alongside and organize alongside and struggle alongside workers of various beliefs. Many of them quite different from mine. But nonetheless, we were united in our common interest as workers and in our common expectations of respect and dignity for ourselves and our coworkers. I mean, if you've ever been a delegate to your union's National Assembly, and I have, there's a hell of a lot of debate about all kinds of issues within our unions. There's tension between the rank and file and the leadership. There's tension inside the unions between governance and management and staff. There's tension between different unions, whether it's, the building trades versus industrial unions or turf wars within certain industries. Unions are remarkable at bringing people together across racial, gender, religious, ethnic, and other demographic and cultural lines. But, of course, that diversity also means tension at times. There can be no arguing that U.S. labor has been on the back foot for the last 50 years, though arguably labor's peak strength was even, well before that, when our movement was able to win Social Security and unemployment and disability and overtime pay and the 40-hour work week and came damn close to getting the 30-hour work week. But, before I go off about that, reflecting back on this more contemporary movement, we've been decimated by Reaganism, neoliberalism, call it whatever you want to. We've been decimated by globalization and free trade, decimated by anti-worker laws and policies and politicians and regulators and judges and bureaucrats, decimated by the huge shift in the balance of power. Corporate America, which is aligned with ever increasingly right-wing Republicans alongside corporate Democrats, struck back hard against the progress that we made in the early to mid-20th century. Our unions have lost ground in terms of our membership and our density and in terms of our political and economic power. And as a result, we've seen working people's lives get significantly worse, from stagnant wages to worse benefits and security to rising cost of living to even lowered life expectancies in some cases. All while inequality of income and wealth have skyrocketed to levels we haven't seen since the Roaring '20s and the Gilded Age of the late 19th century robber barons. We, the working class, have by and large been getting our ass kicked in the class struggle of these last 5 decades, and reversing this trend will take strong unions. It will take collective organization, and will take working class solidarity. And despite the decline of labor power in the modern era, we have reasons to believe that in these past couple years, particularly with the disruption of COVID, among other factors, that there is an upsurge in the working class movement generally and the labor movement specifically. Unions are at record highs in Gallup opinion polls. We've seen unions spreading in new industries and among new companies, whether it's workers taking on corporate giants like Amazon, to the growth of service sector organizing, to minor league athletes going union, to the organizing happening on college and university campuses across the nation. We've seen a wave of youth getting involved in labor in a way we haven't seen in years. We've seen exciting new strategies and tactics in labor organizing, from the building of grassroots independent unions to the innovative use of technology. We've seen rank-and-file reform caucuses grow in strength in union after union, and even winning power, like with the Teamsters and with the UAW. We've seen high-profile strikes, including right now with the actors and writers, as well as high-profile labor struggles that have come close to strikes. In surviving the pandemic and its aftermath, workers saw the power of unions to fight for better conditions. And at least for a brief moment, workers gained some leverage during the disruptions in the economy and the limited but still impactful expansion of government relief and social spending. Unemployment is still quite low, even though the Federal Reserve seems bound and determined to undercut worker bargaining power through its fiscal policy and is deliberately trying to increase unemployment. But we've even seen unions become a much bigger story in the corporate-controlled media and a much bigger topic of discussion among politicians, whether it's pandering from some or targeting by others. The labor movement has the power to bring together the diverse working-class majority along our common interest. The labor movement has the potential to improve our lives as workers, from immediate shop floor wins to longer-term progress in our communities and neighborhoods. Unions can foster relationships among workers, which are critical to our success. In the South in particular, the labor movement has the power and the potential to counteract the divide and conquer strategies of the bosses and the politicians, to fight back against the hyper-exploitation and hyper-extraction of the South and its workforce and its resources. The labor movement can build the interracial people power that has so frightened the ruling elites in the South all these years, because they know it can bring the kind of change we so urgently need. Building a working-class movement rooted in love, justice, and solidarity can transform our lives and our society. And given the multiple layers of crisis we're facing as a society and as a species, it seems to me we don't have a choice but to do that, to build a working-class movement rooted in love, justice, and solidarity.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.